It is called Artisans, and I will get started. So essentially, artisans are special NPCs who help the player by lending their skills as craftsmen. We're going to show kind of a first concept of one of the 3 artisans you can get throughout the game. This is the blacksmith. So I'm going to be pausing this throughout, because I like to talk, I'm chatty. So blacksmith is one of 3 who joins you. The jeweler and mystic are the other 2. And as you move through the game, you will encounter these various artisans, and they can join you on your adventures. So you don't start the game with access to artisans. You earn them along the way. So artisans, essentially, as you encounter them, they'll have different problems that they need solved, or issues that they need to get into, or things that they need from you. So once you basically perform these quests for them, help them out, and earn their loyalty, they'll join you and follow you throughout the World Sanctuary, and essentially lend their skills to try and help you. And the idea is that we wanted this entourage of followers and people who essentially move through you with the world and gather around you as they would gather around a hero. So the other thing is, we really knew we wanted to add a crafting system to Diablo, but we didn't want a system that required the player to spend an enormous amount of time in town. We didn't feel really good about the idea that the player would be in town, banging on an anvil, working out a daily living, while simultaneously trying to save the world. It seemed discordant with the game, and it also seemed kind of contrary to the real action game pace of Diablo. So we love this idea, though, that you would have these people with you who could essentially do these jobs for you, and that you can direct kind of their progress. So here we see the blacksmith has moved into town. He's got his cart all set up, and he's ready to go. So artisans have a bunch of things they can do for you. They can act as just kind of normal vendors, so you can buy items. We'll put better items in that store eventually. They won't all just be lousy, crappy white items. And you can sell stuff to them that you don't want. So they just serve that basic function. All artisans can also craft items depending on the type of artisan they are. So the blacksmith mostly focuses on more heavy armor, chest pieces, things like that, and some weapons. Usually weapons more aimed towards melee characters, although every artisan can do something for every class. Also, every artisan has special abilities. So the blacksmith can repair items, and none of the other artisans can do that. And he can also add sockets to items so that you can put gems into basically any item. So any item that doesn't already have sockets on it. So the way that works is basically if the item doesn't have sockets on it, and it's one of the items that he can add sockets to, he's got certain types, like he can do chest pieces or belts and things like that, then he can add sockets to it. So you can pretty much have gems on almost any item, regardless of quality. And so this is one of the goals we have, is really make the gem game from Diablo 2 a little more prolific throughout. So the other thing that all artisans can do is they can train so they can get better over time, and we'll show that a little bit. And they also have awesome gossip options for all of your fun learning about the world of Sanctuary. So here we have the crafting system. Essentially, crafting can't really work in Diablo the way it would work in a lot of other games. We don't want the items to be predictable. So what we've done is do a system that has a little bit of predictability to it, but still has a lot of randomness. So as we look at this item, if you can make out, which you may not be able to make out from out there, but essentially it is a dagger. It has a kind of a set range of damage that it does, but it also has 2 random properties. So every time you craft this item, it's going to give some random properties. So as you find different kinds of recipes, as your artisan levels up and gains more access to different recipes, they'll have different combinations. Some have more predictable combinations than others, but they all have some element of randomness to them. So the idea here is, to follow the Diablo item game. We don't want you to know exactly what you're going to get, but we did want crafting to give you a little bit of control so that you can kind of angle towards what you want. So we're going to kind of craft several items here. I'm going to make sure I'm not screwing up my script. So as you see, this one's got a couple more predictable, but still a couple random properties. And once you've got the materials you need and the money, and you're ready, you can craft your item. See, it's fairly quick, and you can even queue up multiple items and then go and come back, and they'll have them all done for you. All right, so the next thing we're going to show, after we put on our cool items that we just made, is the socketing system. So essentially, as I mentioned, the blacksmith has a couple of different items that he can do this to: shields, belts, chest pieces. Basically, if it's any of those that are applicable, he can do it. You can take the item, put it in, pay what is currently an exorbitant gold fee, won't be probably quite that exorbitant, and then add gems to that item. So pretty straightforward. So the crafting system is driven by materials, and those materials are gained primarily through salvage. So the salvaging system basically allows you to take any items that you don't want and put them in this cube-like device and break them down into essentially crafting materials. So this has a couple cool aspects to it. You can do this anywhere. So if your bags are full and you don't want to go back to town, you can just break down some items. And our goal is really to essentially strike a good balance between your desire to sell items and your desire to break them down. We don't want that to be a really hard choice, like you're struggling with each item. There's going to be some items that you obviously want to sell because they're worth more gold, and some items that are better to break down. Usually, higher quality items that don't have great affixes on them, so they don't sell very well. So, those are the primary places, and the more rare the item is, the better the materials you get off of it. And there's also some randomness to the world. There's some items that can be gained through drops, and there's some, and you can also get recipes through drops as well. So one of the big parts of the item game for crafting is actually finding the really good recipes out in the world. All right, so the next thing we're going to show you is how Artisan upgrades. This is my favorite aspect of the Artisan feature. One of the things that most crafting systems don't have is a visual element. We do with almost everything else. As you get better as a player, your skills look cooler and your armor gets better, and we tend to visualize almost everything about your character getting better. But in most games, crafting is not one of those things that you get a visual indication. You just get usually something in the UI. So, but because artisans are characters in the world, we can visually show them getting better over time. So the other thing we wanted was the leveling up process to be fairly easy. So as you see, this is actually about as quick as it is. It doesn't take very long to level a guy up once you have the materials. It's actually acquiring the materials, which you do by going out and fighting in the world. So again, we wanted the process of We wanted the process of crafting to be mostly focused on combat. We didn't want you, again, to spend tons and tons of time in town. We want you to go out, kill monsters, find materials that you want, find items that you want, find items that you're going to break down, and always be wanting to get back out into the world and fight more. So this is an example of the blacksmith once he's fully upgraded. And every artisan will have several levels of kind of visual upgrades that they get throughout the game world. So that is pretty much the artisan feature. The only thing left is for us to, I can't really do a video where we don't kill something. It doesn't feel right. So there we go, there's our killing. We're using our crafted items and we're killing goats and we're staring at rainbows. And that is artisan. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jay. We now have an open